the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. First item up is to approve the meeting agenda. And the policies have been added to the agenda since we saw last.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion by Brenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Molly. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Agenda carries. Opportunity for visitors to address the board. Anybody like to address the board? Okay. We'll move on. So we have some acknowledgements. We have Miss Bridget Hall and the Spanish trip chaperones. We have our All-State Winter Student Athletes. So girls basketball academic All-State, Claudia Garath and Ellie Welch. Girls basketball All-State honorable mention, Ellie Welch and Morgan Korf. The girls basketball team All Academic Gold Award. Mr. Korf, anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you to Mrs. Hall and all the chaperones for a successful Spanish trip, and we'll hear from the students here soon. And congratulations to the student athletes and the girls basketball team. And then we're still waiting for one more winter team to hear what they have received. So we'll announce that if there's any that earned awards at the next board meeting.
Thanks. So next up, we have some presentations, but we're going to bump the Spanish trip. So the Spanish class has a presentation for us, I understand. If you want to introduce yourselves for the camera.
Okay. I'm Charlie Larson,
I'm Mariah Wisher.
I'm Sarah Bunker.
and we're here on behalf of the whole Pelican Spanish program that went on the trip this past March, and we're just here to thank all you guys for making that happen, and then just we're going to tell you kind of what we did over that whole trip. So, starting out, so we left on March 24th, Sunday morning, just before the snow moved in. We kind of had to move the time up a little bit so we could get out of this part of the country so the snow didn't affect us too much. And the road conditions were pretty bad until we reached the South Dakota border, and then the snow changed over to rain for most of the way. So the bus windows couldn't really see much out of them, but at least we weren't in snow. And we drove overnight, spent the night on the bus, and we arrived in San Antonio and checked into our hotel Monday afternoon. We stayed at a Drury Inn. It was a really nice hotel, good continental breakfast, nice pools, and it was just kind of all you could ask for a hotel. And we had lunch in Lockhart, Texas after we left the hotel on our way to, it was just outside of Austin. It was at Black's Barbecue. And Monday night, we wandered around the Riverwalk in San Antonio, which is kind of like a touristy area with a bunch of restaurants, stores. So we ended up eating at a fun restaurant down there that night, and then we took a cruise on the river, and we got a tour of all the buildings and stuff around there, just being able to know the history of all that stuff. It was really interesting, really nice night, well lit up, and that was a really fun experience. And our boat captain was knowledgeable on everything, and he was quite the comedian also, so that was really fun. It was a fun night. And then the next day, so we woke up in San Antonio, and the first thing we did was we went to the zoo, San Antonio Zoo, which for a lot of us was, we obviously never get to see those kind of animals, just really cool to see. Giraffes, elephants, little otters, alligators, just everything you could imagine, reptiles, it's all that cool stuff. And then after that, we went to the Alamo, which is the site of a battle that is very important in the Texas-Mexican, just their whole relationship, just helping out our country. And all of that, learning about the Alamo was really, it was very interesting. Just never really talk about that much in school, and just being able to go there, be where those people were, hearing about all they had to go through to make Mexican and American cultures work together to what we know now as Texas. Then after that, we went to the Tower of Americas, which it is San Antonio, when they had their first World's Fair. The Tower of Americas was the center of that, so that's a big piece in the historic side of San Antonio. And then after that, we went to El Mercado, which is, it's a big Mexican market, kind of in the heart of San Antonio, which resembles a lot what they have in Mexico. So that was really cool, just a whole cultural experience there. And then after that, we ate at Mi Tierra, which is a Mexican restaurant down there in the El Mercado to have some authentic Mexican food, and it was really, really good.
And then the next day, we went to Corpus Christi, and it was about 2 hours from where we were staying, so kind of made a trip out of that in the morning, slept on the bus. And then we visited the USS Lexington, which CJ was very excited about. He gave us facts throughout the week and kind of just prepared us for the knowledge there. And then after that, we visited the Texas State Aquarium, and that was really cool. I mean, seeing all the different, types of things there was pretty cool. And then later that day, we finished off the day at our last location was Mustang Island State Park, which was the beach. It was pretty windy, but the water was just extremely warm. It was kind of surprising. I was expecting the wind to kind of impact all the, but it was so much fun. So, and then for dinner that night, we sampled some fresh seafood at Snoopy's, and then next door we had ice cream, and that place was called Scoopy's. So that was kind of cool, and we were hungry and wiped out for a couple hours after the beach, and it was some of our first trip to the ocean, so that was pretty cool as well. And then we got up early the next morning and headed toward Oklahoma City, and we stopped at Buc-ee's, which is a convenience store, and it was big and it was really cool stuff. So we went to Oklahoma City National Museum and Memorial, and it was a really eye-opening experience. I mean, we don't really talk about it that much, and it was very informational. It was very sad, but like the memorial they have set up for them was beautiful, and like the gallery with like all of the victims, and it was just, they had like some of their belongings with them. Some of the children had like their pacifiers, and it was devastating, but it was beautiful how they had it all set up for them. So I'm happy we got that experience as well.
We got up early on Friday morning and headed north again, and we arrived home at about like 9:30, and then we were all happy to be off the bus, but sad that our trip was over. And we're here today to thank you for the support of our Spanish class trip to Texas. It was an incredible educational opportunity. Mrs. Hall wrote that part. Now we'd like to introduce ourselves and each say one or two things that we learned, liked, or something that surprised us when we were on the road. So, my name is Sarah, and one of my favorite parts was probably the ocean, because it was kind of like cold when we were all there, and we were all kind of like, oh shoot, but then we got in and it was just so much fun, and like just to be there, because we worked like 3 years to get to go on this trip, so it was really fun.
I would say, my name is Mariah, and I would say that mine was the Oklahoma City Memorial and Museum, because like I said earlier, it was very eye-opening, and I was honored to be able to get that experience and visit it in person, and it was beautiful.
I'd also have to say my favorite part was the Oklahoma City Memorial too. Just going into it, not really knowing anything about that, and just hearing about how big that was, and just how Oklahoma is forever different from the bombing, and just being able to be there and pay the respects to the people that passed away there and are still affected by it today. Just, it's really cool to be able to be there and kind of know what happened down there that day.
So we have some gifts for you guys as well, so we'll pass those out now as well.
We came from El Mercado.
Allie, I think I got yours.
I got their album. Okay, I'll-
We'll wrap it up with things.
I got ready for it.
Oh, yeah. Eddie has mine. I'll give it to you. Oh, those two. They're probably they're all the same, right?
Yeah.
And then there's extra on my own.
Do you want to give that to?
School board number 3.
Thank you.
You get open, can I
Do you have time for questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
So, I know you guys ate at a lot of unique restaurants. What was your favorite food that you had on the whole trip?
Mine was probably the barbecue place we stopped at right away. I mean, that was the first thing we did. We didn't even check into our hotel or anything, so we were all kind of just relieved to be off the bus and get some good food. And they took us on a tour back how they make it and everything, so that was really cool too. And it was lots of flavor, so that was my favorite.
I'd say also a barbecue place, just the Texas barbecue. Oh, that was
Okay.
that was good.
Better than your dad's cooking, would you say?
I don't know.
I would say mine was also probably the barbecue because we would all like just been eating snacks and just sleeping on the bus, so just to get off and actually like have a real meal was good. Yeah.
Right, any questions?
Did you get the burger at the market?
No.
No.
Not really.
No?
So if you were to, share with the next group of students, like, how would you tell them, like, this is the best trip, you should go?
I'd say just, well, because you kind of know you're going to go from when you're first in Spanish as a freshman, so just like knowing that that trip will be, you just got to enjoy all the parts of it. Like, we woke up early a lot of days, like, didn't have that much sleep because you're like staying up late with everybody, but then wake up like 5-6 hours later, so just not letting that really get to you, just knowing that you'll be able to sleep on the bus rides and stuff and just enjoy all the different spots you get to go to. Just appreciate all of that.
And the hard work really paid off. I mean, taking 3 years of Spanish, it's kind of like the thing you're looking forward to. And even though it is over now and we still have the remainder of the school year, I'm really happy and thankful I got to experience that. And yeah, I mean, with the people we wanted to, it was kind of a small group as well. So it was pretty close knit, and we played games on the buses. I mean, even like the downtime we still had so much fun. So it was a memorable experience, and I would definitely recommend to work towards that.
It was so like worth it. Like it seems like, oh, we're gonna go to Texas in the year. Oh, we'll be in Texas in 5 months. But then like when it finally came, it was just so exciting. And like a lot of like the little things were just really fun. Like we would all get into like one hotel room and like watch a scary movie. Or like when we were in Oklahoma City, we went to the pool and we made a big whirlpool. Like it's like the most like random like memories that are just like last a long time. Yeah.
The Space Needle looking thing that I've seen a photo of, is that the World's Fair thing?
Yeah.
And then, I've never been to San Antonio, so when I hear the Alamo, is there any perspective you can provide how big that Alamo part is that you see? I don't even really know how to explain my question, but when you go to visit the Alamo, if you had to capture it in a few words, how would you describe it?
I mean, I don't know. Lots of us, we kind of had like mixed like opinions. Like some of us were thinking, oh, it's gonna be giant, and we got there and it was like, oh, little, and then vice versa. I mean, it was kind of, again, like we talked about it in class, but it was kind of, like more eye-opening to actually be there and, like read about everything. So.
Did you expect it to be downtown?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of just something sitting right in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they talk about how like the city is kind of built around the Alamo, which never have thought from just like a picture of it or something. It looks like it's like in the middle
By
of nowhere,
itself.
really.
It's not, it's right downtown.
Mhm.
So is it just like a historical marker?
No, it's
Or,
the
I mean, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know,
Well,
like to visualize it.
it's like, it's kind of when the Texas-Mexico War was going on, the Texas troops were stationed in the Alamo.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
kind of like a fortress type.
Okay,
I think originally it was like a church, but then they were in there during the war. So, like there's some parts of it that aren't standing anymore, but like the main, like the big middle part, it's still standing. But it's in pretty rough shape, so you couldn't like touch the walls or anything. If that's kind of,
so is it bigger or smaller than you thought it was gonna be?
I'd say a little smaller.
I think I kind of just, I didn't really have an opinion, I was just kind of ready to go see it.
I feel like it looks smaller from the outside, but once you got inside, kind of like what Charlie said, like how like it used to be like a church, like it looked very like open inside, like yeah, it was very interesting.
Any more questions? Thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
And for the
Yeah,
gifts.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
They're pretty tall order, Mr. Nor and Mr. Nelson. We're gonna move on to the next presentation, district goal number 3. And district goal number 3, MCA reading and math proficiency rates for free and reduced price. Students will increase by 3% per year, so.
All right, Mr. Nelson, I didn't know we were together on this presentation, so if you have anything you want to say, to stall for 15 seconds while I write these two things up here, you can go ahead and tell me what you think of MCAs.
They're about ready to get going.
All right, so really 2 outcomes I want you guys to take away from the next 3 to 5 minutes is the goal here. Next 3 to 5 minutes, I want to first make sure you see how is the math department filling the bucket of goal number 3, okay? So that's kind of how I see these 5 goals, and when Ms. Janaszewski and I were talking in June, talking about, hey, these are 5 district goals, what do you think? I was like, this is good, but we should make sure every single goal that we have, every drop of water that a teacher or a staff member is putting in is feeding into one of these buckets, right? So these are the 5 buckets I see us having here, and with that in mind, the second outcome I want you guys to think about here, and you guys are having more presentations as the months go on, but bigger picture, right? Bigger picture, what are the goals going to look like going into 2024, 2025, okay? Because we could ask the question, what is student success really going to look like, and what are the ways that we can make sure we have a clear image of what the buckets are that we need to fill going forward. So, and I know you guys have some check marks you need to finish, and the state requires you to say some different things to have these goals. But anyway, goal number 3 is the math department's goal here. And so we are trying to increase free and reduced scores on the MCA by 3% every year. Okay, that is the goal that we have measured here. And we actually have a number of individual goals. So I went around to our math department today and asked what were your individual strategies for doing this. And I am not going to put a name to every single one of these, but what I will say is, here's what we got back here. So something we've been working on this year is self-assessment and self-paced learning. So self-assessment and self-paced. So that's going to be something that we've really put a key focus on this year, specifically with a program that the district was able to invest for us, which is called Alex. Okay, Alex is an online learning platform where students get individual feedback immediately, so that they don't have to work out of a book, look at the back, wait 24 hours until the next day when the teacher reads off the answers. No, they get it immediately. Was it correct or was it incorrect, and why was it correct or incorrect? Okay, so that's 2 things we've been working on. The third thing we've been doing is differentiating into small groups. So we have been working with self-paced. We have Ms. Royson and Mr. Rarick working with the 8th graders, where if some people need extra help, they will be differentiated into a separate group where they'll be helped up. So let's see, differentiated. Another thing, and I gotta give kudos to Ms. Lindberg, Ms. Royceman and Ms. Lindberg have put together a complete ELL math classes here on the fly, basically teaching in Spanish, pure Spanish, and it's really impressive what they're doing over there. And so that's another thing, I just want to say kudos to you guys for that. Let's see, 2 more here I have. Actually, only 1 more. The 1 more that I have is, and I'm going to let you guys stew on this for a second, positive note cards to students. Okay, and I'm going to sit behind this because this one was my goal. Okay, and it really begs the question, does sending a positive note card to a kid and their family really make them score better on an MCA test? And that's kind of a question I want to pose to you guys and see if you feel like that would be the case. You think sending a card to the family or to the kid to say, hey, I noticed how this kid worked hard in this area and they have a lot of, maybe they could see growth in this area but they're doing well here, could that affect MCA scores? I want you guys to tell me yes or no, because this is like, in my head, I had a hard time with this, right? Like, how can I do my trapeze dance to say that this is really going to help goal 3? And for me, I think it does, because when we work with student success, and that's over on the right, this is kind of where I want to pivot into the bigger picture moving forward. When I think about student success, do you guys feel like a successful student is the one that passes the MCAs and that's it, regardless of their character, how they work with each other, how they are physically able to operate, how healthy are they as a person? So that is something that I am going to pose to the board as something to consider for the district goals moving forward, is what are things that make a student successful, okay? Obviously, academically is one. And I would say that, so academically or intellectually, okay? Sorry, Ms. Lindberg. Okay, because if they have academic skills, they are going to be able to provide value to people out in the real world. They're going to be able to do things, solve problems, help people, okay? But if they just have that, that's only one, in my opinion, quarter of the picture, okay? I am stealing this framework from a couple people, okay? One of them, PJ Fleck, he has 4 different pillars or 4 different areas of a student being successful. Academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually, okay? So this is where I'm going to add 3 bubbles to the pie and call back to these goals here, okay? So academically, athletically, and by that, I mean physically, right? Are they healthy, right? Are people knowledgeable about what they put in their body? Is their heart healthy? That type of thing, okay? Socially, morally. Socially, are they able to have a conversation with someone? Are they able to persuade someone that their ideas are better than others? Are they able to make someone feel good so that they send a ripple to the next person to make them feel good as well? Okay, and spiritually, now this is kind of a weird taboo-y word for a school, but I'm going to throw it out there. Is that person resilient? Does that person have a feeling of purpose, a feeling of higher moral what is right, what is wrong, and have the resilience to move forward with that? So the reason I pose these questions here is, at PRHS, we do a lot of things to make sure that students are doing well socially, doing well physically, obviously academically, and we also work on how are they doing mentally and working with themselves spiritually. Is there a way that we can make sure that all these buckets are being filled, and they're being filled by the goals that we pose every year? Do you feel like these 5 goals hit every one of these buckets, or do they need to? And now I know I'm turning it on you guys, but I'm hoping that this kind of conflict can make you guys think about the goals a little bit. Because I guess my vision for this school would be that we have 5 goals. Every student knows these 5 goals. Every teacher knows these 5 goals. Every administrator knows these 5 goals off the top of their head. And I bet, Ellie, if I pointed at these goals, you probably didn't know these were the 5 goals of the district, did you? Maybe you did. Maybe you did. I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. But
What's the last question you had, Logan?
yeah, so my main outcomes here of today was to show how the math department this year is putting into bucket 3. And my second outcome was looking at the bigger picture. How do we structure the goals so that we reach the maximum amount of buckets filled in what a student can be at PRHS?
So Logan, when you, I think those are all valid, very valid, what would be a process that you would see in order to like revamp the goals? And how you see it?
So what I see right now personally, and this is not a critique of the goals, and I understand the goals need to meet a certain criteria from the state, and I'm not in that position to know that, okay? But when I see this goal, it definitely fills this bucket. This goal does a great job of filling this bucket. I feel like having a plan is awesome. That can fill maybe this bucket, okay? Maybe we don't have a space for the district to fill this bucket. And I know we do a lot to fill this bucket, but the goal we don't have a goal that's talking about that. Is there a way that we can have, what I would do is I would have us sit down and determine what's the framework, okay? What is the higher good that we can do with one student? Then determine, I don't need to write anything anymore. So you can just leave it there. So what is that ideal student candidate, okay? What do they look like? Now we make the district goals with that in mind. Then we make sure all the departments are on board with that so that every single person, when they're putting their 8 hours in, or as Mr. Gorf and I are talking about, the 12 hours a day they're here from September to May, how can we make sure every drop of water they're putting in is dripping into one of these buckets, which therefore is going into this bucket, or this reservoir? You know what I mean? That's what I mean by that. So, and this might be beginning with the end in mind a little bit. And that may be what was done here. But I guess my thought is a lot of this is very, very academic. And is there a way that we can measure? I know with goals they need to be measurable, right? And that's a question, and that's a critique you can bring up here, but is there ways we can measure this in more than one facet than just the academic facet? And if you say no, that's fine, and that's where we can move from there and say we have to stick with these, or stick with something similar, but.
I love what you wrote on there, and I think that's a great point, and I love how you're looking at the whole student, but that was my thought, was how do you measure those other things? How do you measure that you're preparing a student socially or spiritually? When you can look at the outcomes and have to come back with a number, right? Because it's so black and white. When you're looking at the district goals, we can measure those things, but I don't know how you measure if you socially prepared a child or spiritually prepared them to be successful.
Sure.
But I like it. I just don't know how you make that work in the goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think that's where it gets tricky.
Sure.
And I will say, I also think that positive note cards would be effective. As a side note,
Okay,
because
yeah.
I think if you send that home and a kid, it would raise a kid's self-confidence, right? And a confident kid taking an exam is probably going to be more successful, right? Good self-esteem, confidence, that's going to make them more successful when they're taking a test.
And get some conversation started too, and between student and parent about how they're doing in school.
I understand the measurement the question. I wouldn't want any sort of concerns related to kind of perfecting how to measure that get in the way of, success that we as human beings can think see and feel. I know it's not sciencey at all, but the concept, I mean, how could anybody be opposed to the vision outlined here? And I think, you know, to try to figure out a way to come up with a specific unit of measurement. You know, if there's absolutely no way to do it, that's one thing. If you think there's a stretch with regard to measuring it, even though you have some concerns with the accuracy, I mean, I don't think it needs to be perfect to be very successful.
Sure.
Well, and because I'm kind of giggling to myself because you're a math guy, right? So you'd be like right in the technical pieces of things. And here you all talking about adaptive measurements.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can gather data, right? And that data of how confident do I feel isn't the same level of quantitative. It's not at the same level of data as or whatever. We can talk about what kind of data that is, you know. But
What qualitative is?
No, it's qualitative data, which is
Data too.
Yeah, it is also data. But okay, this is my final pushback, and this isn't, and I didn't want to come in here and create a stir. But I mean, maybe I did. Mr. Corp has known me long enough here. But when I think about the goals that we have in the school and the things that are brought up to the students, all very, very good things. 7 habits, be the light, Harry, these 5 goals, right? Like, how can we consolidate it into one message, 4 goals on a piece of paper, or 5 goals on a piece of paper, that everybody's on the exact same, everyone's on the exact same message, and it's all encompassing. Because I think, you know, what happens over the years of 25 years or whatever is you have different kind of influencers come in, like a 7 Habits type of influencer, and then a top 20 teacher influencer, right? And then these kind of goals barnacle onto the district. And like, how do we just consolidate it into one where it's just the message is very clear? And then I think because of that, more water will always stay in the buckets and will get lost by different goals and different.
So are you talking about maybe more broad district goals, still having, you know, an academic piece underneath, and maybe one of the goals, but then also talking about some of these other things that we're already doing in the district, and including those in the overarching goals?
And so I don't mean, so yeah, that's what I'm thinking is, and this is funny because I've been, you know, squirming around this for now 15 minutes and I knew we didn't want to do this. I want to make it more efficient, and I say that ironically, but I would like to make the goals more efficient so that you can point an arrow to every single thing a teacher is doing with their individual goal to say, it is working on that goal, and that goal is worthwhile to that. And I do think these goals are worthwhile, but the question is it shining a spotlight on enough of this that you care about?
So I would throw one more question out to you to toss around with that. Like, when you look at our mission and our district priorities, because I like what you're saying there, and do our district goals touch what we say is our mission and our priorities?
Can you read the mission for me?
Pelican Rapids Schools is committed to providing a variety of high-quality academic art and athletic programs in a unique rural setting. We believe that education is a partnership between student, family, school, and community, and that our students are our top priority. Highly qualified staff provide a positive and rigorous learning environment for academic excellence. Diversity provides students with a unique advantage. Students are prepared for a career in college and lifelong learning. That's a mission. But then there's 4 priorities also.
Okay.
So I would throw that out there as like how could we revamp those goals to meet mission and priorities?
Yeah, I love that mission. To me, that mission could be, that's the high ideal, right? That's the object. That's the sun in the sky, the North Star. And then everything trickles down from that. So that when you follow the crumbs up, it all goes to the same thing, is what I would say. Yeah, no. And I think these goals are quality goals, right? I just think there's a lot of different goals branching from different sources, going to different sources. Does that make sense? So,
I think some of this we've wrestled with. These are world's best workforce goals, and how do you tell the state how we're gonna quantify them or plug them in? So, when somebody chooses to send their student to another district because they look solely at our test scores, how do you quantify or tell them that I think our students are more well-rounded and fit those criteria versus other districts? That's hard to come up with facts, I guess, or
Sure.
something that they can read, because they're all based on the facts, but just hearing it from people, so.
Oh, I get you. Yep, I understand.
Anything else?
So last month, Mrs. Nelson and Mrs. Eisman were here talking about goal 2, and a lot of goal 3 ties in with goal 2 because no one at the elementary knows who's free and reduced. So they're all students. So what a lot of the interventions that they talked about at the last meeting are things that we do that reach goal 2 as well as goal 3. So we don't, ooh, you're free and reduced, you're gonna have this. We don't know who those students are. We just go off where they group because of their scores and then put into the intervention groups. Some of the other things that they didn't touch on that or lower elementary has is our ADSES program and also the Reading Core program. So those are 2 programs that work with reading for K1, 2, and up to 3rd grade students. So those are different interventions as well that our students are part of. When we look at the whole picture, we're this year started the number corner for math, and next year we'll have the Bridges math curriculum. The last day of our teacher workshop, we have 6 hours worth of math training that day. So hopefully, and the biggest thing looking at that is getting all of our teachers on the same page, and the scaffolding is built into the program rather than our teachers would grab one material from one spot, one from a different spot, as we didn't have a curriculum, so the material is brought all over. So hopefully with a curriculum that's built in, that builds on each other, and they've already said a lot of the stuff they thought early on, like number core, is like, ooh, this stuff is stuff that, boy, I don't know if our kids will understand, and they're amazed at how fast the kids are picking up on things. Do you want to touch about kindergarten at all, about number core?
I think it's just a higher bar. So if you expect it, we do it every single day, so the repetition's there, the validity's there.
So, and then with the new curriculum, that'll build on that as well. So, and then also with the READ Act next year, there's going to be a lot of training that'll take place. So it's going to be, a lot of good stuff. The reading training we're going to have is really good stuff. So I think all that put into goal 3 is going to help all of our students test scores grow. And we had a speaker when I was in Underwood once, and this always sticks with me, is the better the teacher, the more growth you'll see, like in those students. And so I think we have great staff, and I think we're going to see great growth over time here with our students. Sorry, I got right on the board.
Any questions? Do you have more?
No, I was just wondering if you wanted me to roll into my regular report or.
Sure. Okay, Andy? Thank you.
All right. So enrollment, we're at 431. Testing started this week. So we have reading this week, and we'll have math next week, and the week after will be 5th grade science testing, as well as any students that need to get caught up. Some programs coming up. April 26th, kindergarten has a performance at 12:15. On April 30th is DARE graduation. That's at 1:30, and we'd like to thank Officer Statham again for teaching the DARE program and setting up the program graduation for the students. And I don't know exactly how many years Officer Statham has done this, but I know it's many, so we want to thank him for all his time and effort with that. May 3rd is the 3rd and 4th grade performance at 11 o'clock. And May 17th is K through 3 field day. We also have a lot of field trips coming up in May for the different groups. And one that we're adding that I just got yesterday, I'd like to thank Daisha Johnson. Daisha Johnson is going to be moving this summer. And so we want to thank her for her time as a 2nd grade teacher, as well as her time as a dance coach. So she will be moving out of state. So I want to thank her. And then also we had a new little Viking born yesterday. So congratulations to Mrs. Brenda Mule and her family on the little boy that was born yesterday morning. So activities, we had subsection speech in Underwood on Wednesday, April 3rd, I believe was the date. And we had Cass Schleski and Ella Schleski, there's 3rd and 4th in dramatic interp. And then Daisy Hull was 2nd poetry. Those 3 advanced to the section meet, which was last Saturday in Monaga. And then we had Andy, Ashley, and Chloe were alternates to the section meet. They did not end up speaking, but they were selected as 1st or 2nd alternates as well. May 7th is a choir concert. May 9th is a band concert. And last thing is with the HOL conference adding Staples and Park Rapids for next year. We ADs have been meeting several times throughout this year and are in the process of rewriting all the bylaws with 2 new teams. And we're just about finished with those, so those will take place, be put in place for next year. Looking at, how many all conference, what does everything look like with 2 more teams, how many times you have to play each school in a conference, looking at those type of setup for the conference. So
How many does that make in our conference then with those 2 additions?
9.
9?
Ideally, we'd like to get to 10. We did have Detroit Lake Supply. We turned them down. The CLC had turned them down previously. Detroit Lakes wanted to be in the CLC, so they had to apply to another conference. So then we had to do a bunch of paperwork for the state with the CLC as well. We had meetings, and the state then placed Detroit Lakes in the CLC conference for the coming years because of size. Our 3 smallest schools put together are still smaller than what Detroit Lakes is. So probably wasn't the best fit. Location-wise, great fit, but just size-wise, quite a bit bigger than everyone. So, any other questions?
No?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Janaszewski.
Okay, enrollment, you can see we're down just a couple of students. We're at 401. Big thank you to Mrs. Hall for her time, work, and dedication. She puts in tons and tons and tons of planning into this trip and helping kids fundraise for it. So as you heard from the 3 students, it was a really, really great experience for them. MCA testing, we just kind of finished up today. I put up here our schedule just so you could see. We tried something different this year. I was talking to Mrs. Korf, and she's in some different groups where they talk about different ways that they put their scheduling together, and we've done it in the past where they test in their class over multiple days. So she came to me and said, what if we try a late start schedule for testing for all students, and then we go into the rest of the day. So we tried that. So last week, Tuesday and Wednesday, we did a block of testing from 8:25 to 10:20. And then yesterday and today, we did the same thing. And so the grades that are colored were doing their testing. Last week, our 9th graders on Tuesday did a day of service. So they walked around and they picked up garbage. They moved a trampoline for one community member. Our 11th graders did their results for the ASVAB test or ACT results. ASVAB, we had a couple military members come in and go over results with them, and then Mrs. Lage went over ACT results, and I believe also talked about just FAFSA with those students. You'll see over all 4 days, we gave seniors the ability to come in at 10:20 unless they needed to ride the bus and they could have study hall, or we gave them the distinct duty of having time to serve detention that they owe to us. Also last week then, you'll see that our 9th and 11th graders went to a career fair in Monoman at Shooting Star, and it sounds like it was a really great experience for those kids. They had, just colleges, was there also some businesses there? Just a good mix for them to go around. I think for 9th graders, it's kind of that first experience of what does it look like. And then 11th graders, I heard they were wishing they had more time, so just a really good experience for them. Yesterday, Mr. Brueggemann did a session in the fine arts with our 7th and 9th graders on something called the butterfly effect, which was really just talking about sometimes the struggle is the greatest part of getting to what you want to experience in life. And so then today they went over to the elementary and worked with our kindergarten through 2nd grade on an activity and read a story to them that went with this theme of a butterfly kind of breaking out of its cocoon and the struggle that goes with it. So just a really great couple weeks actually of activities. You talk about filling some buckets. I feel like we filled some spiritual and social ones here with those activities for 7th, 9th, and 11th graders. We'll talk in our PLCs kind of about the bugs that go along with going through this, but I would see us continuing with this next year. Okay, if you keep scrolling for me. So just some fun highlights from this past month. A thank you to the MHS students and Mrs. Breen for organizing our Red Cross blood drive last week. Mrs. Breen also took some MHS students and special ed students to the Shrine Circus. Special ed students got to experience the circus, and then our MHS students volunteer, I believe, in concessions and just do some general work there. Our student council hosted a junior high dance last Friday. We had Ben Rudroot speak to grades 10 through 12 about career planning. We've had a really good partnership with Rural and NSEC this year, and they invited him to come speak to our students. Mrs. King took some of her students on some regional nonprofit organization tours, just kind of a different flavor on what she usually brings kids to, and sounds like that was a really good experience for them. I want to kind of touch on Mr. Knorr's thoughts a little bit. We've talked about district goals. When I went to my principal conference in January, a school, I believe it was Pequot Lakes, presented on a district report card. And I want to play on it a little bit, and I think it might be a chance for us as high school teachers to kind of put together what are our goals and expectations for students. Some of the things they had on there were attendance rate, participation in activities, number of service hours. We could talk about GPA, but that was kind of their chance to talk about the whole student, not just necessarily how they score on their MCA test one day. So I could see us getting together as a staff and putting something like that together, where it would really say like, what's important to us as a staff? Where do we put our goals together, you know, even in those 4 areas that he talked about. So that is kind of in the back burner right now for me, even to maybe do for the class of 2024. And what Pequot has done is they've taken it now like year by year and seeing how it we improve. They talked about how like their attendance looked really bad, but they've just tried to make those goals better and come up with some strategies. So that'll be in the works. Upcoming events, believe it or not, this Friday is the middle of 4th quarter. I actually just opened my document today after meeting with a couple students about graduation. So graduation is upon us. May 4th is prom. Celebration of Cultures. Brenda, thank you so much. I heard it was a wonderful, wonderful event. We had that this past weekend. Shadow Dedication is coming up, scholarship night, baccalaureate, last day of school, workshop.
and graduation. And then the last thing I want to touch on is this week we have FFA week. We have some dress up days. Today was dress up like Mr. Larson. FFA put on a really fun petting zoo. We had goats, we had chickens, we had sheep. What else was down there? Some
Pigs.
dogs.
Pigs,
Bunnies. We had some elementary kids come over and look at it, so that was really fun. We'll have a pet fest on Friday for our state convention members, and then a send off on Sunday at 1 o'clock. That's all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
No, thank you. Mr. Martinez up next. No, we have our student board reps. Would like to go first?
My report's kind of short. Upcoming events, as Mr. Nelson said, there will be a choir concert May 7th. It will mainly highlight the senior class of 2024. FFA details, 23 members are going to state. That's a big number. And they also had FFA dress up week, as Ms. J has said, petting zoo, ag in the classroom, and they will elect new officers in May.
Miss J kind of stole most of mine. But
You'll tell it better.
NHS was busy as they helped out in the circus and their blood drive. PRH business students toured businesses to learn about non-profit businesses management as well as some career opportunities. And then also a big thank you to Brenda and whoever else was helping with Celebration of Cultures. It's a really fun event that we always look forward to every year, and it was a fun night. And then we also had our junior high dance on Friday, April 5th, and it was a good turnout. We were rocking in the elementary cafeteria, which that's always put on by student council, so that was fun too.
Any questions? Okay, thanks for the reports. Mr. Martinez. Councilor.
All right. Today I'm dressed like a track coach. Last month we kind of talked about changing our board report a little bit as we're trying to move our focus more into efficiencies now so we can measure our operating budget a little bit better. This is kind of the first report that I have here for you guys. I'll go line by line so everyone knows how to read it, but ultimately it's pretty self-explanatory. Over the course of the next couple of months, I'm perfecting it so it has more visual representations from graphs so you guys can see changes, ups and downs. It'll give you guys as board members more vision in terms of how we fiscally and operationally, internally, we manage our district as a whole. I'll still give you guys the financial report in terms of balances, but our primary focus is going to be our operating budget. Starting on top here is the different full buckets that we receive in terms of revenue. First column, you see everything under revenue and expenses. Second column, you see the budget that we adopted last June. And then year to date is the expenses and revenues that we've quoted. And then of course you have your percent completion to date. That is just a measurement telling you how much of that particular bucket we have used. So federal revenue, we are expected to receive about just a little shy under $1 million. What we quote here is everything from our food service fund. Those are federal dollars, in addition to some federal grants that we've received, whether it is ATSAs, a couple of special ed, and a couple of early childhood grants that we received, and title as well. Out of that, we received about 634, so completion today we're about 70%. Our fiscal year does run from July to June every year, so we're about 75% within our fiscal year. So that's kind of the measurement that we want to be, right? In terms of revenue, we want to be at that 70 to 75%. Expenses, we want to be under that 75%. Kind of tells us that we are about in line in terms of our fiscal year. Local revenues, that's our levy that we approve every December. The levy dollars that we have budgeted for, that we approved last December, or December of 22, was $4.8 million. Of that, we have collected $2.3 million. So we're a little behind on our levy, and that's okay. There's 2 levy payments in the calendar year. The first one is in September, and then the second levy payment is in May. So when we have our May board report, you're going to see that particular local revenue levy category spike up quite a bit. Local sales, this is everything from student lunch accounts, adult lunch accounts or teacher lunch accounts, any miscellaneous revenue that we collect from fundraisers, whatever it is. That's what local sales is categorized under. We budgeted about $107,000, of which we have collected about $69,000. So again, we're right on target. State revenues, this is everything that we have accounted for in terms of state aid, from the funding formula to everything else that the state is providing us. So that bucket, we have $10 million. Of that, we have collected $6 million, so we're about 60%, which is very common. The state always plays catch up. In addition to that, the state always reserves 10%. So they will always pay you at 90%, and 10% of the revenue that we put in this particular bucket, we recognize in receivables and carry it forward to the next year. They started doing that because in 2011, 2012, the state overpaid. If you guys remember, the state shut down because there was a deficit in their operating budget. They learned from their mistake and they're like, okay, we're not going to pay at 100% anymore because we get in trouble. So there's always that 10% holdback. Okay? So overall, we're about 57% of our entire revenue that we approved for and we accounted for. So we're sitting in a very good place. Again, big things that are still holding back is the levy payment that's going to come in May, and then additional state revenue that's going to trickle in here. The bottom tiers categories, I categorized everything for you guys on how we report to the state and how we report to the feds. And again, it's all categorized, but it gives you a sense of idea, and I'll explain some of them. Administration, again, it goes everything from our superintendent to our building principals. Community education, self-explanatory, Fund 4, everything under the umbrella of community education. In here, we also have club bikes, and we also have a lot of our early childhood programming. Debts and scholarships, those are just called fiscal agents. We have our debt that we're paying back for our building construction, which was started in 2014. Our payment for our debt is about $2 million. The rest is scholarships and a couple other miscellaneous things. District support services, this is primarily the business office, in addition to all the services that we have at the business office. District instructional support services, that is primarily with staff development. So this is where we see all the staff development expenses that we code in our expenditure ledger. Pupil support services. Pupil support services is directly related to the meals that we provide our students in addition to our busing. Regular instruction, elementary and secondary. Then we have sites and buildings. This is primarily everything that we spend and categorize for supplies, upkeep of our buildings, all the utilities that we pay from electricity, gas, whatnot. Okay? Special education, self-explanatory. We code special education separate from regular because we have to do a lot of federal reports with it. And then vocational education, we also have to break apart because we do receive 35% reimbursement funded in that. So Again, this is all of our operating budget. This is all of our funds together, not just our general fund. This is all of our funds. In June, we approved a $15 million budget. And then we knew that we were going to overspend. We were going to have some investments in the district, and we approved a expenditure budget of $60 million. And as I've explained in many other meetings, that is directly related with the building that we just finished. So the multi-use building. So we knew that it was an investment that we had to set aside with all the partnerships with the county and the city. But then again, you see the site and buildings being a little bit elevated, and that's because of the construction of the building. So overall, expenses are about 76%, right? And I said that we're about 75% within our fiscal year. So we're a little bit over what I would have said that kind of want to stay under that 75 marker, that 75% marker. We're a little bit over, but that's okay. In the recent projections that I've added, just to see where we were going to land, we're right on target. I want to stop there because I threw a bunch of stuff at you guys. So questions that you guys have, things that you guys want me to explain a little bit more in depth, or if you would like to see a different concept of the report.
I like this. It's straightforward.
Wonderful. All right, we'll go to page number 2, please. Page number 2 is the report that you guys are used to seeing every single day, or every single month, my apologies. We started our investments at 4.2, of which we went down to $4 million. Part of that was the only thing we received was state aid, and we had to pull $1 million from our investment account to meet our obligations. We started with $152,000 in our checking account, of which we received $1.1 million in deposits, one from the money that we pulled. Accounts payable was $866,000. Total payroll was $456,000. Included in this payroll number was our spring coaches. So that's why you see that number a little bit higher than what it normally is. At the end of the day, we ended with negative cash on hand of $33,000. But then again, we have a zero balance account that as soon as it touches zero, it pulls from our investment account. So we never actually go into the negative. Total cash on hand was $3.9 million. Okay. Then we'll go to page number 3. Page number 3, this is just me cleaning things up. One of the things that you guys saw on the first page where I talked about where we are in terms of completion, there was a line number that was directly related to the business office services, and we saw that that was at 123%. That was some miscoding that we did, so this is practically to correct some of the miscoding in the business office. So that should all be in line by the next report. Then the last pages is all the payables that run through the district, and like I always say, if you have any questions about any of the payables, shoot me an email, I'll be happy to provide you with that. So that is the report that I have for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks. There's no questions for Rudy? Okay. Mr. Gorf, you're next.
Okay, district enrollment, we're down on one student, K-12, from the beginning of the school year. We're at 833, September 5th. Right now we're at 832, K-12. Preschool through 12th, we're at 952, and we started the year at 951, so that's good. Multi-use building, just a couple things with our multi-use building. Again, a tour right after the school board meeting this evening. Mr. Steves will be up there. He'll meet us up there and give us a tour of it. We're having a ribbon cutting with our City of Pelican Rapids and Otter Tail County board members, and that will be on April 25th. That will be at 10:30 a.m. at the multi-use building. We'll take a photo at 10:30 a.m. and then we'll have a tour of the building for everyone that would like to attend. Community members are welcome to attend this event. Marketing update, just so you know, a district newsletter will be mailed out this Friday to every household in the district. That's talking about all our news, good positive news that's going on in our district from preschool through 12th grade in our activities and our arts. Kindergarten registration and preschool registration, anyone entering kindergarten or preschool can register, you should contact the elementary office. Correct, Mr. Nelson? Committee and work session updates. We had a finance committee update where we had a committee meeting here recently. We talked about the 23-24 budget, and we looked at our 24-25 budget for next year, and then we talked about long-range plan at that meeting. Policy committee met today. They're going to recommend some policies tonight, and we'll get to that when I talk about the school board agenda items. We're looking at a work session to set up. We're looking at May 1st. Since we're on that, we're looking to talk about a long-range planning at that work session. Wondering if May 1st at 7 would work for everyone on the school board. We talked about 5:30. Doesn't work for everyone at 5:30, but would it work for everyone at 7 p.m.? Good? Okay, so we'll set work session on May 1st at 7 p.m. Sound good? Okay. Summer planning, we're planning summer projects, planning for summer recreation activities and academic programming. So we're busy doing that, getting staff in place. So that's been very busy in all our offices, getting that stuff ready. Drop-off lane update, looks like weather permitting, it looks like we'll start to work on a drop-off lane mid-May, weather permitting. So hopefully that will be all done by the end of June. That's the goal, but we're not going to put any deadlines on it. We're just hopefully get started middle of May, and by September 1st it's ready to go. School board agenda items for tonight, just a few things that I want to clarify under business items. The resolution tonight is the education identity and access management system that we use. That's to approve the superintendent, myself, to be authorized to for user access, to give people permission to use it in areas of, it could be our DAC, it could be a special ed related, MARS coordinator, but it's for the person that gives approval for people to complete reports. That's what that's all about. The policy committee has a few policies that we've added for tonight's meeting. First reading, policy 506 and 806, and then we have a first and second reading, which is not a lot of changes to it, so that's why it's a first and second reading. That's policy 619, 620, and 722. So they met before the meeting tonight. Just a few items coming up. Work session, we just talked about that, and then May 20th is the regular school board meeting, and I believe May 20th, is that a Monday?
Yes.
It's just a reminder that's a Monday. This is our next school board meeting. And then June 12th, that will be at 7 a.m. on June 12th. That's a morning meeting. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Cord?
Can I ask a question on the drop-off lane update? Can you just clarify like what, I only asked this because I pulled up the other day forgetting that it was like all the construction. I'm like, oh, where do I drop off my kid in the middle of the day?
So for like right now, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
like right now, like what should families do during the middle of the day and drop off their kids?
Yep, so they can use the drop-off lane right now.
Okay,
Starting in the middle of May, when they work up, head towards Faith Church, then it will be blocked off, and then we'll have to work that out. But that should be like the last week of school, or 2 weeks, but then we'll have to use behind the high school.
yep, okay,
And there's a place to buzz in and things like that, so.
okay.
We'll work on that when they know for sure they're gonna be, those details, and we'll communicate that with families,
Yep.
students.
Okay,
It's a good question.
yeah, and I think it was just a little confusion because they do have a sign right
Yeah.
there that says road closed. It's like, do you turn in there or not turn in
Yeah.
there to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. We'll move on. We have consent items. Consent items, item A, approved board meeting minutes, March 18th, 2024, regular school board meeting. B, financial claims to March bills. C, treasurer's report. D, accept donations. We have student accounts, $100, Laura Klimick. Viking Boutique, $100, Laura Klimick. Rex and Linda Haugen Scholarship, $175, multiple anonymous donors. PRHS Scholarship Fund in memory of Ron H., $25, Bonnie Mose. PRHS Scholarship Fund in memory of Jerry Pauley, $100, Van and Ruth Holmgren. Celebration of Cultures, $350, Minnesota National Bank. Celebration of Cultures, $150, Park Region Telephone. Item E, Personnel. Approve the hire of Jasmine Peterson as part-time special education paraprofessional at Viking Elementary. Approve the resignation of Taylor Poach as full-time custodian at the high school. And approve the resignation of Daisha Johnson as elementary teacher at Viking Elementary and head dance coach at the high school. We have a motion for the consent.
I'll make a motion for the
Motion
consent.
made by Stacy. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Molly. Anything on the consent items? Hearing no discussion of the consent items, all those in favor of approving them signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Consent items carry. On to business items. Approved Education Identity and Access Management Board Resolution. So, need a motion and a second, and then we'll go directly to the reading the resolution. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Brenda,
Second.
second by Ann. So this is a resolution. The Minnesota Department of Education, MDE, Professional Educator Licensing Standards Board, PELSB, and the Office of Higher Education, OHE, require annual designation of the identified official with authority, the IOWA, for each local education agency that uses the Education Identity and Access Management, EDIAM system. The Iowa system is responsible for authorizing, reviewing, and recertifying user access for their local educational agency in accordance with the State of Minnesota Enterprise Identity and Access Management Standard, which states that all users' access rights to Minnesota state systems must be reviewed and recertified at least annually. And that will be Mr. Cork, right? Okay. There's a lot of abbreviations in there, so. No. So this is a resolution. Molly, how do you resolve? Brenda?
Yes.
Yes. Ann?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Approve the first reading of the following policies. Someone like to make the motion or word the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of Policy 506, Student Discipline, and Policy 806, Crisis Management Policy.
Okay, motion by Brenda. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Ann. Any discussion on the policies? Hearing no discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Larson?
Because you moved to approve the first readings of both, right? Just on the 806 crisis management policy. I know it's just the first reading tonight, but I noticed in the active shooting drill, there's a provision in the policy, I don't know the section right offhand. It says any child between pre-K and grade 12 must not be required to attend an active shooting drill. And then active shooting drills described as kind of a simulation, if I'm paraphrasing that accurately. If students desire to engage in an active shooting drill, is that something that they would be allowed to do? And maybe, I'm not interested in like having a full discussion on it here, but I would, I'm trying to think, after the first reading, does it go back to the policy committee again? Doesn't?
Just the next board meeting.
Okay, so,
So I'd like to just interrupt here and just answer your question. So the safety committee team with an active shooter drill, we don't do that drill while students are in the building. That's what the committee has decided, just due to anxiety, things like that. The only time we've done a drill with an active shooter is with staff. We've trained our staff at fall work shot, and staff have the option to opt out when we do the drill. So with students, our safety committee does no plans of doing that drill while students are in the building.
If a student desires to attend an active shooter drill, are they allowed to do so?
So you're talking about like when our staff are trained, they would have to work through their building principles on that. So they'd have to have a process to go through, have a reason, justification of why.
And when they've done simulated drills in other districts, they've utilized students as, as part of the drill, but I think there was some legislative changes, I'm not quite totally versed on that, about when drills can be held, I think in school, or, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't exactly know. They made some changes last year.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving Brenda's motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item C, approve the first and second reading of the following policies. So who would like to make that motion, or word that motion?
I can do it.
All right.
I'll approve the first and second reading of the following policies. Policy 619, staff development for standards. Policy 620, credit for learning. Policy 722, public data and data subject requests.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ann. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stacy. Any discussion here? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor of approving Ann's motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Motion carries. So we will move on to upcoming meetings. We have a work session May 1st at 7 p.m. We have the Monday, May 20th, regular meeting at 6 p.m. and June 12th, 2024, regular meeting at 7 p.m. So I will make the motion to adjourn, and I think I'll word it, make the motion to adjourn.
Following to it.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to adjourn following the tour of the multi-use facility, and no school district business will be conducted at this tour. So that sound right? So I made a motion. I'd like a second.
I'll second.
Second by Brenda. Any discussion on adjourning? Hearing no discussion. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. We're adjourned. Everybody's welcome to meet us up there. You guys coming? Yeah, if you like.